Well, hello and good day to you all. My name is Dimitri Frederick, and you're watching Voices for the Voiceless, a Frederick Media production and a subsidiary of Frederick Capital. Today is December the 7th, 2012, and today's show is entitled Is America Too Big to Fail? This is part 2 of a continuous 4-part series that looks at the question, is the United States too big to fail? And we've entered the question already that says, yes, America is too big to fail, but you need to understand the reasons why and the problems behind it that will continue on for generations to come if we don't fix the problem up front. So to go a little recap, the first part, we looked at the healthcare. What is the healthcare of our country? We're at a stage of right now dealing with a fiscal cliff, which been dragged on for the last 4 years or so, from just the amount of issues that have been going on, from the wars and many other things that unemployment and so on. So now here we come the end of the year, and these issues needs to be resolved. But really, are they going to get resolved at the end of the year? Maybe not. We'll talk about that later on in these shows. But part 1, we focused on the healthy economy. The second part of the part 1 was the welfare mentality. One of the issues that's causing this country to be too big to fail with all this amount of debt that it has on its balance sheet is the welfare of our young generation of children having children. And so today's show is actually part 2, and the focus is going to be on 2 issues: your 401k and taxes. So let's get started. Many years ago, in the 90s, we remember these famous words that said, "Read my lips, no new taxes." Well, that was the famous words of our dear George W. Bush Sr. that prevented him from being elected to his second term in office. But the end result of his failed attempt to get reelected has been the stigma in the back of every politician who dares to run for president. You will not forget, you will not get elected if you talk about raising taxes. And everybody knows, and actually now it's time to talk about some more on the Republican side of things. Well, folks, I don't know how America plans to grow at the rate we throw away money when there is hardly any other method of adding a surplus. Since former President George Bush Sr., Jr., no president has raised taxes, but we continue to spend money like there is no tomorrow. To put it in a layman's term, there haven't been any taxes raised for over 16 to 20 years, depending on your calculations. So here's a side note. Let's not get technical about President Clinton and the era that he did a lot of things which created a surplus, had a lot of boom of the economy, because that short-term era of growth is all BS. And I cannot explain why on this show, but you can read my book that I'm working on finishing right now. It's called Why Entrepreneurship, and it goes into details about why I say that. But there's a lot of things and misconceptions that we assume from President Clinton's era, that he created a lot of financial success or with the surplus that he's done. But there were some things to that caused that to happen. Sometimes may not even be beyond his control as well. So read my lips, America. You better start raising taxes, else you will be damned if you don't, and damned even if you do it anyway. Why do I say that? Well, here is a better question. What have we accomplished in our past 20 to 50 years by raising taxes? Nothing really. We raise taxes on the hardworking American citizens of this country, but the wealthy put that money right back into their pockets by giving themselves raises, tax breaks, more government loopholes, more bureaucracy, etc., etc. But what other options do you really have? Our government still has pet projects that they will never drop, but they continue to bleed this country year after year. Speaking of bleeding this country, have you been paying attention to the large amount of accelerated dividends that have been paid out before the end of the year, right about this Christmas time? There's a lot of politicians who's debating the Fiscal Cliff. In the meantime, we have a lot of corporate executives actually doing their finances right now and determining that, hey, they could save themselves a tremendous amount of money. And we're talking about not chump change. We're talking about millions upon millions of dollars worth of taxes that could have been collected in the new year if we don't have a set budget yet, or with President Obama's plan. So here you are again, letting the middle class suffer and struggle by avoiding paying higher taxes. So how are we going to solve these issues? So many corporations are trying to avoid the fiscal cliff tax hike from the Obama administration, which is to take effect in 2013, by offering shareholders and CEOs advanced bonuses in the form of dividends. That's owning stock of the company. So those people who have been lower company shareholders, they get the reward, which is fair. But at the same time, you actually create an incentive that is kind of like misleading, because if this fiscal cliff doesn't happen, which is not going to get resolved, or probably will get delayed, because nothing's guaranteed right away, because December 31st comes and then the year starts over brand new, that this fiscal cliff is going to start happening. You may see repercussions here and there, but it's going to be a slow process maybe before it even happens, because it's hard to get anything done. And as you can see, if you're watching the news, a lot of back and forth going on between the Democrats and Republicans. So understand that I really believe there's a repercussion to come, because you have inflated stock prices going up, because people are buying into these stocks in advance to get the dividends before the year's out. And most likely what will happen is that they will probably cash out as well. So you have a flux of everybody all at once doing the same thing. And that will cause some problems in the new year with the stock market. So expect that to happen as you see the new year come, and what happens to the Dow Jones and the rest of the indexes. Now, let's talk about the big game that every presidential candidate plays each term, and it's called kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the street, or rather, Social Security and Medicaid. What about it, folks? Is it really that complicated that we cannot see through an unrealistic loophole that we spend every 4 years talking about the same old thing, and then we forget about it, and then come back again in the next 4 years and talk about it again? It never ends. If you have not heard, Social Security is broken. I hate that I have to be the one that's getting dumped on every year, where I'm paying taxes and having to take my hard-earned money as a U.S. citizen, as a taxpayer, and put it into empty promises. But what can we do? Sticking with the same topic though, let's bring forth the big 800-pound gorilla, which is what I call the baby boomer generations, the baby boomers' pension plans, waiting to explode in the next few years from now. And I'm talking about 2015, 2016 to be exact. Or if you were not so lucky, that great 401k plan, or should I call it the 41F plan, that we still have today, you still paying into. No matter how you want to look at it, or what you want to call it, it is really more like a collection of junk bonds that has an earning potential of 0. It is not more than fake or fiat money that you really bought into, you still paying into. So what am I talking about? If you have not read Pension Dumping, then you cannot begin to comprehend what corporate America has been doing with your retirement money. Then I feel sorry for you if you are about to retire right now. There are several key states that are so broke that the only way they can get out from all the financial mess that they are in is by going to filing for bankruptcy, filing for state bankruptcy. That is the only way. And I am talking about states like California, Illinois, New York, or maybe even New Jersey. Those are the known states that are already in deep water. And as much as it is unfathomable to believe that a state can be bankrupt, you better start thinking twice about the impossible coming true. This is the conclusion of part 2. Come back next week as we talk about part 3 and focus on baby boomers and their healthcare reforms that's going on. I am Dimitri Frederick, signing off. You have been watching Voices for the Voiceless. As always, I hope you have been enlightened, empowered, and definitely have been educated. Take care, and God bless.